Hello, surf enthusiasts. Coming to you live this week from Dad's Workshop for several reasons, which we'll get into. Hopefully, the pandemic and quarantine has been treating you well. I myself have had a couple of minor incidents. I got hit in the head with a can of Coke the other day. Yeah, don't worry, it was all right though. It was a soft drink. Anyway, we're coming to you live from Dad's Workshop for several reasons. One, because, well, I've got some ding repair to do. See that little sticker right there? Yeah, overdue ding repair. And because this week we're going to talk about images. And if there's one thing that I've layered up in here, it's plenty of images. Surfing, among other things, is probably most propelled as a culture by its use of and obvious relationship with the image. Here are two such classic images, one of Tom Curren going backdoor at Pipeline, and the other, which is a little harder to see, of Gerry Lopez going regular foot at Pipeline itself. The other, that's Hemingway by a spring, and it's got nothing to do with that. So images are what drives surfing and drives surf culture, perhaps as much as its lore and its treasures. There are images on the cover of the magazine. There are images that we take ourselves and collect. The culture does this locally as well as globally. Most surf magazines and surf publications have put out some sort of photo collective over the years, probably the most notorious being Surfer and its giant oversized photo issue that wouldn't fit in mailboxes. These days, most of that is accessible online, and you'll see at the links I've given you today that you're going to be able to get access to just about anything you want. So the first thing that you have on tap this week is a reading from Story, who talks about reading visual culture. And he relies heavily on the theory of a guy named Barthes, Roland Barthes. Roland Barthes is a French theorist who looks at the way in which we read visual culture, similar to the way in which de Saussure talks about how we actually read anything. De Saussure was another theorist, also French, who came up with his system of signifiers and the signified. Very briefly, it works like this. If I write the word cat on the board, you would then begin to picture in your head a mental image of said feline. The symbol of cat on the board, the word, is the signifier. The image that you put in your head is the signified. You'll picture your cat, somebody else's cat, Bill the cat, Garfield, I don't know, there's a million cats. But you read the word cat, you immediately pick, maybe it's angry cat, you pictured a cat. You get the idea. The referent is the actual thing itself, a real cat, which is neither on the board with the word nor in your head, but an actual real cat. That's how de Saussure works. Barthes takes that theory and overlays a different set of expectations. He says not only does the relationship of the viewer and the image work in such a way that what's seen then creates something signified in the mind, but rather it also becomes loaded with extra layers of connotation. So, what we want to look at today is those layers of connotation, how we read images from different positions. Barthes' idea is simply to take the levels of de Saussure's signification and add more common words like denotation, the thing that it actually is looking at, and connotation, what's actually implied. By example, if we were to take a look at this video as an example of different ways in which to read said image, there's a multitude of layers that you could look at or examine with which to read what's being presented. For example, you can read it as the straight intro to a course assignment. You can also read it as sort of the naturalization that I'm aiming for between myself and someone with an ethos and credibility or expertise in said subject. You could also read it as me trying to sort of characterize perhaps what my home life and my dad's workshop looks like, right? There's a variety of different things. Then from there, you can say, okay, well, his workshop has this and this and this in it, and these things have these connotations, and therefore, by extension, those connotations fit him, right? Clearly, he has an interest in Spanish-speaking surf films or versions of Spanish-speaking surf films. No, not really. It's a limited release poster. I like the image, but whatever. There's different ways to read an image, right? And the reading from story goes into particular detail about the classic example of a African French soldier and his salute and kind of what all that then means and what becomes naturalized, even though it's only connotation. It's not actually in the photo anywhere, but we assume it and make those connections based on what we see. So then what I'm going to do is ask you to look at a variety of different images, 2 or 3 in particular, and then some of your choice, and make some assessments about the different ways in which that photo can be read, and then just a general assessment about reading visual images within surf culture in general. What are your observations? What are the things that are interesting to you? What are the things that you see? Hopefully you have some place to go immediately. But some of you might have some questions this week, probably more than in the past. So please don't hesitate to reach out, and I'll be happy to answer those questions as best I can. Maybe it'll take putting together a quick Zoom meeting, and we can share back and forth our screens and the images that we're looking at, and then we can give some voice and some thoughts to those. If we can set those up individually, we can set it up as a group. We can get together and decide that. So hopefully you'll be able to get this up and running with limited amount of trouble, but perhaps not. So let's take a look at the okay. Let's take a look at your assignments for the week, and we'll look at some of the different options that I've laid out for you, some of the different places to go, archives and repositories for photos and images and graphics, and kind of what the expectation will be, and get you started on your way. 13. The first thing that you'll need is this reading from Story's book about popular culture and cultural studies, and it's entitled Reading Visual Culture. Open up and give it a look. It's a discussion of BARTs and the way in which newspapers, magazines, and almost any form of visual content work on multiple levels of the viewer. There's both the denotated as well as the connotated, the things that are actually in the picture as well as those things which are implied or begin to emerge or elicited by the picture itself, as well as its position, where it's located, things that are also around it, the writing that it comes with it. This is a discussion of all of that. Give it a read and pay particular attention to the examples, as those are probably the most helpful in trying to determine what it is that we're talking about, right? As we talk about the development of myth, right? Something that we've seen culturally done in text, and we've discussed it in text. Here we are discussing it in image. So read that. If it becomes challenging as a read or some of the ideas become confusing, don't get overly bogged down in it. Read it for a basic understanding of what they're describing rather than an actual detailed analysis. You aren't expected to engage in heavy theory just yet, but some light understanding of what it is they're trying to communicate will be helpful, because this week you are to write a weekly response in regards to how you read your choice of 3 to 4 images. Some of these have controls on them, some of them don't. By example, I've given you the famous South African photo from Durban in 1965, which is a look at the young black male on the segregated beach surrounded by 3 white males carrying a surfboard and 1 small child playing in the sand. The actual denotation is 3 white males carrying surfboards without shirts, no socks or shoes, walking down the beach, presumably to go surfing, right? Along some sort of industrial beach there in Durban, South Africa. While the black male is fully clothed, looking at the water wistfully, yet clearly not going surfing. That's what's denotated. What's connotated? What's connotated is the idea that the segregation of South Africa and its apartheid policy left many black African males out of the ability to engage in that lifestyle, which was gaining popularity, and certainly they would be aware of as much as any other minority or majority race, but are unable to participate, right? There's also the connotation of surfing as not seeing race, right? These surfers are looking out and then don't see the race in front of them or the nature of the apartheid in front of them. And rather, all they see is their idyllic search for waves, right? Surfing as a whole, if you place this in Surfer magazine in 1965, which it was, also does not see race, but clearly should be seeing race as there it is right in front of them, right? So there's multiple ways with which to read this photo, right? You can read it as surfing trying to be blissfully unaware of the larger political problems in front of it. You can read it as the documentation of a time period in which political activism and awareness was not quite as prevalent among surf culture as it is today. You can read it as a critique on surf culture for its inability to see race and the problems of politics. The possibilities are endless, especially given context of where it's placed. So that's what I'm going to ask you to do with your choice of several different styles. You must choose one photo, one graphic image, and choose your choice of either film, short film, with which to perform a sort of visual analysis, right? You are going to discuss the various ways in which said photo, film, and or image can be read. So, as a way to help, I've given you a collection of things to scroll around and choose from. You do not need them all. This thing, Tom Carroll's Lost Photos, is best opened in a new tab. It is a Surfline feature that looks at all of Tom Carroll's lost photographs, most of which are not surf related or surf directed, rather. The denotation in the photo is not surfing, but rather other things. So this could make for a good archive of an interesting source for your own paper. This is an archive and a set of vintage graphics, some of which are movie posters, some of which are noir covers for film, for fiction, noir fiction being like tapping the source, and some of which are just crazy things like let's take a look here. Here's your surf movies, and some are just, whatever that is. I don't even know what to make about that guy. Or this. It's a new day. Clearly, right? Somebody has been doing a lot of eternal sunshine. Okay. So, you need one photo, one graphic image, and one film. Of the films here, you have two choices. New Rhythmo, which is an African surfing film featuring a black African surfer, Michael February, pro surfer, as well as some very interesting visuals and images throughout the film. You can handle the film in its entirety, right? Sort of discuss the different ways to read that film as an entirety, the thing itself, or it might be interesting to pause it at a certain position or point that you find imaging and just discuss that single frame as a picture in and of a larger context inside the film. You're free to do that. The other one is one of my personal favorites, is the Chris Malloy film, A Look at Roman Navarro, and it's entitled The Fisherman's Son. Again, open it up in a new window. It's a YouTube video. You'll be able to take a look at it. It also can be dealt with in its entirety, or it offers plenty of also excellent moments with which to pause and view a single frame and discuss just the different ways to read that single frame. Then I've given you a link to two different articles in here from the Surfer's Journal. Pesman is a former editor of the Surfer's Journal, and one of the more famous surf photographers is a guy named Ron Stoner. And this is a collection of his images, and really what they are is a chronicle of Santa Barbara and the Santa Barbara surf scene. So these are a collection of his images. Not nuts, there's the calluses you get on your feet when you longboard and paddle in a certain way.
These are his collection of images as he sort of catalogs what Santa Barbara surfing looks like. A lot of them denote surfing directly. There's Mickey Dora. But some of them also have additional connotation with them. So there's plenty to choose from in his. Right? The other article from the Surfer's Journal that you might choose is this one. And it also features a look at surf photography, most notably and probably in best transition. It's the work of Jason Childs. Is his photos in Bali as the surf tourism industry has begun to change it. Right, photos like this with the surfer in the foreground and the destruction and construction in the background. Um, Especially given its placement in the Surfer's Journal, give you a variety of ways to read this image. Right, same thing here. He's also got your more idyllic and artistic as well. So you've got those two. And then lastly, I've given you a couple of links to some other top 5, top 10 lists of photos, right? So again, what do you need? You need one photo from anywhere, here, 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 or here, or one of your choice from some other place in the interweb at large. One photo, one film, your choice of either New Rhythmo or The Fisherman's Son, and one image. You can pull those graphic images from this PDF, or again, the interweb at large is fine. If you find one of your own that you find interesting and want to read in different ways or interpret in different ways, have at it. All right, so give this a read. We looked at this as an example of different ways to read a single photo, then choose one photo, one film, and one graphic with which to respond about how you read it in that particular context. I hope that helps. If you have any questions, please email me. That's it.
So you've seen the different places to look for images and things to examine. For those of you that have been through your 101, another way to think about this is I'm simply asking you to do a rhetorical analysis of some images, right? What are the different things that you see going on in addition to what's actually in the image? What are some of the different ways in which you can read it? You have to choose, so please choose something that's interesting, right? Not just easy or accessible, but something rather that you find engaging. Those make the best responses. Okay, that's it. Hopefully you guys are all gonna do well this week and stay safe, stay well, stay healthy. Toilet paper is scarce, I know, but now also paper towels. Pretty soon, I'm gonna have to hire a bounty hunter. Bounty, you're welcome. Have a great week. Don't be afraid to email with any questions or concerns. Happy to reach out and try and help. We can set up a meeting and look at your image together and talk about the things that you see or you have questions about if necessary. That's it. Take her easy.